Right before James Clyburn of South Carolina threw his endorsement to Joe Biden on the eve of the South Carolina primary, guess who won the Nevada caucuses? And guess who was the frontrunner of the Democratic Party for a few days? Bernie Sanders. That's right, Bernie Sanders, the self-described socialist, Democrat socialist. And they were scared to death. So this guy who was Mr. Magooing his way through the primaries, I'm speaking of Joe Biden, all of a sudden they all coalesced around Joe Biden and he won the South Carolina primary. Why? Because he was perceived to be rational, sane, a bit of a centrist. After all, he was Barack Obama's vice president for 8 years. And so they thought of him as, an alternative to a socialist like Bernie Sanders. So they all coalesced behind him. And here's what a pundit said about why Joe Biden won.
Well, you know why he proved everything wrong, Don? Because he was the guy that was not crazy. I mean, his message was, I will be calm. I may not be exciting, but I'm not crazy. And so he came in with huge expectations where people thought he was going to be the next FDR. They never should have had those expectations. He didn't have those expectations because the reason he got the nomination and the reason he won was because he was not Donald Trump, period.
Now, I don't agree with him saying he came in with huge expectations. He came in with very low expectations. Calm things down because allegedly Donald Trump had roiled the nation. We're at each other's throats because of Donald Trump. All Joe Biden's supposed to do is calm things down. What did he do? He tried to reverse everything that Donald Trump did because apparently he bought the line, or much of his party bought the line, that Donald Trump was a racist. And so they reversed everything he did on the borders. And now we have chaos on the borders. We have 2 million people in this country who are here illegally, with no idea where they are. Some of them are supposed to show up for a court date. Right. And Joe Biden bought virtually every single thing they said about climate change alarmism. He raised taxes on rich people. He paid people not to work. Bernie Sanders said, I'm surprised. He's done virtually everything I wanted him to do. Notice how you haven't heard Bernie Sanders criticize Joe Biden? Because he's happy. He's happy that Joe Biden was serious about shutting down the oil and gas industry. His first executive order was to stop drilling on federal land, shut down Keystone Pipeline, shut down drilling in Anwar, killed the East Med pipeline they don't talk very much about that would have built a pipeline from Israel to the Middle East, natural gas. Shut that down. He has done everything that they have wanted. Including getting us out of the Iran deal. You remember Senator Joe Lieberman, one of the rational Democrats, senator from Connecticut? He said one of the few things Donald Trump did was kill the Iran deal that Joe Biden now wants back in.
Well, I was certainly disappointed with that particular part about the Iran nuclear deal that you have quoted. I mean, first, because I thought it was a terrible deal, and I thought President Trump withdrawing the U.S. from it was one of the best things that the president did in his foreign policy for the 4 years he was president.
One of the best things, he didn't say one of the few things, I misquoted Joe. Joe, I'm sorry. One of the best things Trump did was to get us out of the Iran deal. Why is the Iran deal so bad? Well, it didn't have no-knock inspections. What's a no-knock inspection? It's an inspection where you don't give the Iranians heads up. We're coming in, then they can hide what they're doing. And it did not include the intercontinental ballistics program of Iran. And it gave them a time period by which they would be a nuclear power. Insane, dumb deal. Even Chuck Schumer at one time opposed the deal before he supported it. So Joe Lieberman said it's one of the things that Donald Trump did, best things Donald Trump did. So Joe Biden undid virtually everything Donald Trump has done. He piled in much more debt, much more spending. Now we have, we're going to get the inflation numbers tomorrow. It might even be double digits. It was 8.5% month to month, year to year last month. It may even be higher tomorrow. We'll find out tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow. So gas prices through the roof, inflation through the roof, borders completely unsecured, pulled out of Afghanistan, which gave people like Putin the green light to be much more aggressive. That is why I believe Ukraine was invaded. What has this man done? Crime through the roof because of the rhetoric that he and others pushed when they were running, that the police were engaging in systemic racism, that the police were out mowing down black people just because they're black. Speaking of this kind of rhetoric, how damaging is it? I just saw a study. It's policemag.com. Check it out yourself. Those who were self-described as very liberal were asked, how many unarmed black men did the cops kill in 2019? Half of the self-described very liberal thought the police killed 1,000 unarmed black men in 2019. Why am I laughing? And 8% of the self-described very liberal thought the police killed 10,000 unarmed black men in 2019. What about normal old, just liberal people? Well, 39% of normal old liberal people, 39% thought the police killed 1,000 unarmed black men in 2019. 5% of the normal, your garden variety liberals, thought the police killed 10,000. Actual number, 12.
Just a bit outside.
You know what's never good?
What is it?
When your nation's supposed authority on economic policy completely misses the flashing red lights of impending inflation. Now, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has finally admitted, quote, there have been unanticipated and large shocks to the economy that have boosted energy and food prices and supply bottlenecks that affected our economy badly that I didn't at the time fully understand.
Okay, we're doomed. Oh.
Well, you know who understood the real threat of inflation? People who invested in gold and silver with Birch Gold Group. They're protecting their savings from a hugely turbulent economy by diversifying their 401k or IRA into gold, physical gold. And it's not too late for you to take action now. So visit LarryForGold.com and get a free info kit on diversifying and protecting your savings with precious metals. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of satisfied customers, visit LarryForGold.com and get real help from Birch Gold today. Again, LarryForGold.com to claim your free, no-obligation info kit on protecting your savings with gold. Now, how about a couple of Democrats? Are they getting any buyer's remorse? Here's what a lifelong Democrat said about voting for Joe Biden in 2020.
You know, Biden was the first person I ever actually voted for. I feel like our youth, they either don't have time to vote or they don't think that their vote matters. And so we aren't really informed on who to vote for. The media portrayed Biden as someone who was going to fix this country. And honestly, from my perspective, my personal experience, he's made it a whole lot worse for people like me who voted for him. So I feel not only embarrassed, but I just feel very manipulated by the media, like social media, portraying him as someone who is going to fix the country. He didn't.
I described her as a lifelong Democrat. She's a first-time Democrat. I'll get to the lifelong Democrat in just a second. But notice how she said, I felt manipulated. I feel embarrassed. Again, she is a young person. Biden has been in the public sphere for 50 years. Robert Gates, Obama's first Secretary of Defense, said Joe Biden has been wrong on every major foreign policy decision in his career. 50 years long. And she thought that the media portrayed him as competent, going to solve the problems of the country. Now, let's turn to the lifelong Democrat, shall we?
Well, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I voted for Biden. I believed him when he said that kids would be back to normal and school would be fully reopened within the first 100 days. And here we are a year and a half into his presidency. And in blue areas like where I live in New York City, kids are far from normal.
When you've lost lifelong Democrats, you are in deep, deep voodoo. New poll, 67% of Democrats, forget Republicans and independents, 67% of Democrats do not want Joe Biden to run again in 2024. Not good. Now, the new White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, has her own initials. You know, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is called AOC. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is called Notorious RBG. She now has her own initials. They're calling her KJP. KJP. Karine Jean-Pierre. That sounds pretty similar to KGB to me. That's too similar for comfort. And I was just thinking about something. When I was a kid, I read Superman and Batman. I know this is a bit of a diversion. We'll get back to KGP in a second. I was a big fan of DC Comics. I think most kids who start out with comics, my age, my vintage, my era, my genre. So I'm reading a Batman comic. I think I might have been in the first grade, second grade. And you know, Superman's alter ego is Clark Kent. Clark Kent's a newspaper man. And Clark Kent wears eyeglasses. Superman doesn't wear eyeglasses. That's it. That's the extent of his disguise. A pair of eyeglasses. I said to my mom, at the time I didn't wear glasses. If I walked in the house and I had glasses on, would she say, "Who are you? Get out of my house"? Would you say that? So Lois Lane, who is an investigative reporter, for crying out loud, doesn't know that this guy is the same as this guy? Are you kidding me? But then little by little, as you're reading the comic, you just accept that premise. And now nobody talks about it. There was a big Superman movie some years ago starring Christopher Reeve. And of course, his disguise was a pair of eyeglasses. And now you're watching the film and you're going, yeah, I got that. That's good. That's almost when you first started looking at Michael Jackson after he'd done all the surgery and colored his skin. And you said, yeah, okay, this Mike. After a while, you just accept it as normal. Now, back to KGP. She was informed that 63% of Democrats believe the country is headed in the wrong direction. Democrats. And her response?
The president has been working on this for months, and we have to understand how we also got here. We got here with the increase of gas prices and food prices because of Mr. Putin's
Putin.
war in Ukraine.
Never mind, Chairman Jerome Powell says that only had a minor effect, but I digress.
And how, in particular, with food and gas, and how his unprecedented, brutal war on Ukraine has caused prices to go up. And so, look, the president's going to be focused. We have a strong economy. We are going to, as we're talking about inflation, our plan, right?
Yeah, but 63% of Democrats say we're going in the wrong direction. And your response to that is?
Now is to do that transition from that for the growth that we've seen in the economy to a more stable and steady growth. And we've seen that in the numbers last week with the jobs numbers, and we're going to continue to focus on that, give the Federal Reserve its opportunity, its space to deal with inflation. They have the best monetary policy to do that. But again, this is what the president's going to be focused on. We're not going to pay attention to polls.
We're not going to pay attention to polls. We don't give a rip about polls.
What we're going to do here, what we're going to focus on is delivering for the American people.
All right. Now, you may not be paying attention to polls, but your party leaders are paying attention to polls because they are deathly afraid that come November, you're going to lose the House, lose the Senate, and then come November 2024, you're going to lose the White House. And that's why they're floating all these names. People like Gavin Newsom, people like Mayor Pete Buttigieg. I'll say it again. Be forewarned. If it is perceived that Kamala Harris is being drop-kicked in favor of somebody else, especially and particularly if that somebody else is a white male like Newsom or Buttigieg, you will incur the wrath of the most loyal part of the Democratic base, and I'm referring to black females. There was a poll the other day, LA Times, 68% of blacks approve of Kamala Harris. And I'm sure if this were broken down by gender, and it wasn't, I'm sure her popularity among black females is in the 70s. Look at some of these primaries in states like Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina. You're talking about between 50% and 60% of the primary voters being blacks, and majority of them are black female, and they will not be happy if it is perceived that Kamala Harris is being kicked to the curb. The only person that can make that go away is Kamala Harris by saying, I want to be kicked to the curb. I'm pretty incompetent. I was given the task of finding out the root causes of what's going on the borders, and I failed. I was given the task of passing voting rights legislation, and I failed. So I deserve to be kicked to the curb, even though at one time I wanted to run for president. The only person that can make that argument that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris should be replaced is Kamala Harris, and she is not going to make that argument. So they are stuck with her. Hope you enjoyed that video. The full show is available to watch right now on Epoch TV. Just click the link in the description below to learn more, because we've got a country to save.